Hey, I'm Caitlin from Magnolia Heirlooms. I wanted to do a quick tutorial on how to quilt in the hoop on a Baby Lock Solaris, Altair, or Meridian. If you want the look of custom quilting but don't have a long arm or the space to put a long arm, this is a really good option to have that custom quilting look, or quilting by the block. I have a table runner that I have hooped with backing and batting. In one of our magnetic hoops. The magnetic hoop is just easy when you're re-hooping. Because of the size of this table runner, I can't get it all in one hoop. So if you're having to re-hoop, a lot of times these magnetic hoops are really great for that. So as you can see, I have already quilted just in the semicircle of several of these. And so my plan is to do a different design in each of the semicircles and then do a different design around the border. So let me show you how we do this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start in IQ Designer. So I'm going to click on that. And now we are going to scan an image of what's in our hoop. So you'll see this button up here looks like a leaf. So we're going to click on that, and then we're going to do an image scan. So now we're going to hit the scan button and hit OK. And it is going to scan our frame. Okay, now our image has popped up on our screen, so you can see an actual image of what's in the hoop. And you don't have to worry about the fact that it's not straight. You can see it's kind of crooked there, but that doesn't matter. We're just going to tell the machine where to stitch, so that's fine. You can see the image is a little bit faint, so what you can do is go up here, and there's a little sliding scale, and you can choose kind of the transparency of your image. And you may have to play with that a little bit in the following steps to see what works best. Okay, to start out, we're going to go here to our stitches. So we're going to click on this, and there are straight stitches. There's a meander stitch if you want to do that, and there's also these like specialty stitches. So we're going to click on that, and that kind of shows you a preview. So if you hit select, there's a lot of built-in quilting designs in the Solaris and in the other two machines as well. So you can kind of scroll and see. Let's switch to this one. Okay, so we're gonna scroll and kind of find one that we like. Let's see. I think I want to do something like this one. So we're going to select this and hit OK. And this is the color that's going to show up on the screen. If you're working on a scanned image, you kind of want to pick a color that's going to contrast with your image so that you can kind of see what you're doing when you're drawing. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to pick like a dark blue, because the background on my block is white and orange. So we're going to select that, and you can always change this later if you don't like it. So it defaults to the little paintbrush. So what we're going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit. There we go. And you can use the handprint right here to pan. You can also use the slider bars, but sometimes this is a little bit easier. So this block has already been quilted, and we can't actually see the full view of it anyway, so I'm going to focus on these two in the middle of my hoop. So like I said, it doesn't matter that they're not perfectly straight. I'm going to go over here to the paintbrush, and it's actually going to paint what is selected there. So I'm going to go around the outline of my shape, and you don't have to be absolutely precise. We can adjust this in just a minute. So just go around the edge. There we go. And now I'm going to go to the paint bucket next to it, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to click in the center. So you have to actually close your edges so it forms a closed shape, and then when you tap on it, it will fill it in. So you could stitch it just like this, but I want to be a little bit more precise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my paintbrush and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. So I'm going to go to about 400 and I'm going to go over to the edge of the design. So you can see here I'm a little bit over the line. Like I want to stay within that border. I don't want to go outside of my block. So I'm actually going to take the eraser right here, and you can change the size and shape of your eraser to kind of get it to you know, where you want it. So let's see, you can see the little circle pops up and you can kind of roll along the edge and it's going to erase. So if you do it in small increments, if you accidentally erase too much, you can go down here to the back button and it'll put it back. So just kind of go and clean up your edges. Like I said, you don't have to be 1000% precise, but get it pretty close to where you want it. And at this point you can adjust your transparency if that helps. And then you can go back to your pan and scoot over and keep cleaning up your edges. And you can toggle back and forth between the eraser and the paintbrush to kind of get what you need, depending on if you've gone too far, you need to erase, or if you haven't gone far enough, let's see, and you need to add a little bit more. Yeah, like right here, I didn't go far enough to the edge. So I go back to my paintbrush and add some more. And you can zoom in a lot more. You can go up to 1600%. I'll show you 800. And that circle gets bigger once you zoom in more. I feel like 800 helps to kind of get real close. And then sometimes I like to use a square eraser if I'm up against a straight edge. So like that. Okay, I'm going to finish doing this, and I'll show you what we're going to do next. Okay, now that I think I've got everything where I want it, I'm going to zoom back out to 100% so I can kind of look at the whole thing at once. And don't worry about how big your pattern is. When you zoom in, it looks a lot smaller, and when you zoom out, it looks a lot bigger. We can adjust that in the next step. So I like to remove the kind of background image and just see what this looks like. Just make sure there's no like areas where there's not blue in the center or around the very edge. It looks like a complete shape. So I'm happy with that. So I'm actually going to go to the next step. And now this is where we can adjust how big the pattern is. You can actually change the angle of how, the angle of its stitching. So instead of being horizontal, you could do it vertical and all that. I'm not going to mess with that right now. You can also stitch a line around your block. So you can stitch all the way around the outline of what you just drew. I'm not going to do that on this one either. You might want to do that if you're concerned about doing the jump stitches and having the machine tie off. If you have the machine tie off, like when you do embroidery, you're going to have, a short tail on the underside of your quilt block. I'm not as concerned about that. This is just a table runner, so I can just flip it over and trim those tails and it'll be fine. But if that's something that you don't want to happen and you want to be able to pull that bobbin thread up and trim it yourself, some people like to stitch all the way around it so you're not stopping at each of these points at the edge. So let's see what else here. You can also change the center point from where the design starts. I'm also not going to mess with that for this one. For the Solaris that has the upgrade, the Solaris Vision Upgrade, you can actually change the width of your stitching, or the thickness of your stitching. So I'm going to go to the thinner one because I want it to be pretty thin, just like you would do, when you quilted anything else. So I'm going to change that on there. And then let's look and see. I'm pretty happy with that size right there, but let's see if we made it a little bit bigger. I think you can go up to 200% bigger. That's not bad, but I think I like it at 100%. You can even do smaller, 75. So I think I'm happy with 100%. So I'm just going to go back to that. And when you're sure you're ready to stitch, there's no other edits you need to make. You can hit set. After you hit set, you can't go back into this design stage. So that kind of sets your design. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And there's your design. It's going to stitch right there. So once you have your thread loaded and everything, you can go to the embroidery screen. So I think we're ready to start embroidering here. So I'm going to put my foot down, and just go. Like I said, I'm not concerned with having the tie off at the bottom, but if you are, you can bring your bobbin thread up and do it that way. Here it is. It's a little hard to see on camera because I used white thread, but if we zoom in here, you can see it pretty good. So you can see it did a stitch or two a little bit outside the block. I'm not very concerned about that. That doesn't bother me. If it does, you can kind of err on the side of caution and kind of go inside the block a bit. If it's a stitch or two in or out, that doesn't bother me. So I'm going to finish out each of the blocks, and then I'll show you how we do the borders. So we can do the borders and then connect them and rehoop and get the entire border embroidered.